that Cadillac, right?
Yeah, when's this week? Coming around? Next week. I'm not there.
Where? Oh yeah, we're right in front of it. Huh?
What have you, man?
Okay.
I can't put it in the box.
Alright, so I have all the info here.
I mean, imagine, you remember? Wall to wall. That's it. Whatever it is. But they don't need defenses. You don't need defenses, but you have to maintain it.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll say enforcement. You don't need enforcement if you maintain it.
Right.
It's like I've always said, right? The bank that has the police car out front doesn't get robbed. So if you have maintenance here, maintenance meaning cops up and down, you don't have to do enforcement because it doesn't come back.
Right.
So there's no need for enforcement.
Exactly. It should be as plain as day.
You guys,
Thank you for keeping it clean, man.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
I work
Appreciate
here
it.
every day. You work with mental health. You're
It's
gonna
awesome.
cut-
It helps.
You're going to cut the crime in half.
It helps.
There you go.
Mental health.
Oh, Wolf Wonder. You have it right there, folks.
Literally, I think there was 247 tents from that trash can that way. I don't remember. I mean, and then there was more that way, but and then it fluctuated.
Yep. All right. So now we're moving in. Not bad though.
No. Oh, yeah, no. These almost hit it with normal. But you don't have any of this. Yeah, you'll have your sporadic, but
this
you
is
don't have anywhere
encouraging
near.
sign is I see tourists.
Yes, yes. And
Did
this
you-
is after Labor Day weekend.
Do you have any plans for the no man's land? It's kind of congested
No,
up
the
there.
sheriff's directed us to collaborate with our partners at Santa Monica, and so we'll initiate that. They have the resources themselves, but if they need anything from us, like a lot of times we'll bring our mental evaluation teams and other things, so I'll offer that to them. I just got directed right now.
To help LAPD.
Well, you have both. You have
Right.
Santa Monica. So we have great relationships, with the work that we do. And so we'll reach out to them and offer that because we can bring the mental evaluation team, as I just said, and that'll enhance, their ability to connect with maybe someone presenting in crisis.
Right.
But it's not we come in, it's always in collaboration. And that's the way the host team works.
I say the sheriff doing another PR stunt down here.
Sure, we don't do PR stunts. We do
Oh, I do.
doing?
This is not a PR
Hey, I'm
stunt.
Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I think I remember. Is Steven or no?
Nope.
All right. We were the host team that was down here. When,
Nope. I was down here before when he was down here doing his PR stunts to get.
Were you here when all the homeless tents
Oh,
were
I
here?
sure was.
How was it then?
Oh, it was not very, very good, and I'm sure glad that bonding post worked on that for years, as opposed to a PR stunt by the sheriff.
You know how many deputies were here for how long?
Oh, I remember it.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So the deputies' work you don't think was valuable?
I think it was a good PR stunt. I think Bonham was already getting those people out of here.
Who do you
When
work
the
for?
sheriff came down. I don't work for anybody. I'm a citizen who comes down here a lot.
And you didn't see the specialized host team working
I've
with
been
the
coming
people?
down here I've been down at Venice Beach for 40 years.
That's awesome.
I've seen it come
So
and go.
why was it allowed to get so bad? Do you know?
Yes, I do.
How?
Because the city couldn't do anything about it. They were hands
Could it?
tied. No,
By who?
basically
learning.
by the law.
No,
Because
that's not
all
true.
these people down here, what are they going to do with them? Where are you going to put them during COVID? What you going to do about it during COVID? And what did the sheriff do about it in COVID? Nothing. He finally came down here at the very end and did a PR stunt. So anyhow, how come you don't have a cowboy hat? Aren't you a cowboy?
Pardon?
Why don't you have a cowboy hat? Aren't you a cowboy?
Are you saying that in a
Where's your
negative
cowboy
way?
hat?
Or?
Do you have a cowboy hat?
What's your hat?
I
You
have
got
a
star
hat
on
here
it.
that says, I'm the general.
The general? Were you in
That
the
is
military?
correct. I was in the military. That is
Where
correct.
did you serve? Which branch?
I served in the Army.
The Army? Well, thank you. for
I
your
was a
service.
medic. I was a medic in Vietnam,
God bless
so I fought for this country.
you. I'm proud of that.
So I have a few words to say, so I say them.
You're allowed to.
Anyhow, I hope he gets unre-elected.
Well, I don't talk politics. in
No, I know.
uniform, so we don't
but
do
we're
that.
gonna
All we do
vote.
is we do the special.
We're going to vote, and we ain't going to vote for him, I can tell you.
Well, just support
Well-
law enforcement. That's what we have to do.
We always support law enforcement. Absolutely. Bottom line, support law enforcement. I am behind the police 100%. I'm behind the sheriff's department 100%. But I have to tell you, as a photographer who's been shooting in this city for 40 years, every time I've been harassed in this city by people, it's been the sheriff's department. I've even had to file a formal complaint against the sheriff's department about harassing and treating me out on the streets for photographs.
We're here.
Yeah, and I got a letter from Lee Baca saying, "We're sorry you had this interchange. We hope it's better in the future." Blah blah blah.
All right, well,
Anyhow,
thank you.
that's all I got to say.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
We're going live, sir?
We going live? We're going. I hope live now. We're live.
Going live
All right.
now. We're live, sir.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We're live here at the Venice Boardwalk. We're by the ale house here, right at Rose and the boardwalk itself. And it's post Labor Day, so obviously the crowd has shrunk. The heat is not. It's still hot here on the sand. It's over 80 degrees already. It's a beautiful day out here. We got the tourists walking up and down. The place is clear of tents as far as the eye can see. We do have a few stragglers, and we have a special guest who's going to talk about that and what the outlook is here. And generally, because of the efforts of a lot of people, and we'll go to what this was like last year and what it looks like today. And a lot of good things happened. So before we go into our special guest of honor, let's give you the crime report, what it's looking like. I got good news and bad news, and just like last week. Good news is we've had homicides drop 34% in comparison to last year. Those are a huge drop, very welcome. And then on the bad news side, we've had a robbery up 29% and burglaries up 40%, which is consistent with what we predicted, that we'll return to pre-pandemic levels and these type of crimes. And as schools open, businesses open, people go back to work, the crooks are also going back to work as well. So we'll keep that in mind, and we're going to keep working on that. And having said that, we're now going to turn our attention to Lieutenant Jeff Dietrich from the Homeless Outreach Service Team.
Good, sir.
How you doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
All right. And the Homeless Outreach Service Team is a very unique unit within the department. And actually, if we can have you walk through what this was like June 7th of last year to today.
Wow, how time flies. You know, when you first had us come down here and evaluate here, so as far as the eye can see, from the northern border all the way south was hundreds and hundreds of tents. Probably, I think at the end of the day, it was 346 tents by the time we were done, but it was a significant, probably the largest homeless encampment we've seen and dealt with, along with all the unsanitary conditions. I mean, it was deplorable here. And so to see it today in this condition is amazing. The work of all the collaborative partners coming together and seeing these businesses thrive. You know, as we walk up and down here, the business owners, you know, are so excited to see you and see the team because they saw the difference between how their businesses were almost going under from COVID, and then the encampments here to today flourishing and thriving. So it's pretty satisfying.
Well, that's encouraging. And I remember last year what this looked like, and what puzzled me the most was the fact that the political establishment had somehow just allowed it to devolve. And with it, this is the cornerstone of the tourism industry in Southern California, in LA County in particular. Number 2 tourist destination in all of Southern California, behind only Disneyland. And $18 billion a year industry, you think people would safeguard an industry that employs hundreds of thousands of people in LA County. That wasn't the case, but now I think we have a chance, and at least for this year, this industry had a chance to recover all the boardwalk permits.
Well, and that's what the business owners were saying earlier, is how they're starting to recover and starting to thrive again. And I think that's what was shown, is using the host model, you can still have compassion and dignity for those experiencing homelessness who are vulnerable in the community, but still have accountability and civility. The rules have to matter. And there's a way to do this where no one from the community is impacted and people are helped at the end of the day.
Very true. One concern we still have, of course, there's elections in November. There's going to be a new mayor. There's going to be a new supervisor for the 3rd district, a new council person for this district, CD 11. And whether or not they plan to regulate public space, and are they going to use law enforcement in what capacity to work as a collaborative effort in this homeless crisis, it remains to be seen. But that's an open-ended question.
Well, you would hope so, because, and you go back to the old adage, traditional law enforcement does not work here. But what we've shown is there is a way to do it. There's no reason that a community should lose their library or lose their park. And those who are homeless in the community can be helped, and they can be held accountable at the same time. So you can satisfy both ends of this without significant arrests and doing all that. It can all be done so homelessness does not affect the community's safety, especially in those areas where, at one of the parks there was no baseball, no soccer, no nothing, and now it's coming back. Well, it's important to keep those areas clean because the rest of the community shouldn't be punished for that.
Amen to that. And there's going to be a magical moment in time when we do have built up our shelter capacity, and we have to stop attracting people from other parts of the nation to come here, because they're only adding to the misery factor for the people dealing here with this humanitarian crisis.
Well, and that was one of the things that we found that was different in the homeless population. Before the pandemic, most of the people that the host team and that we came across were Angelinos. They were from here. After the pandemic, and as we found here, I think what was it, 23 or even more, 23 different states were represented. So post-pandemic, we have seen a significant population from other parts of the country come here. And so you worry about, with a limited amount of services, if that spigot's never turned off, how are we ever going to keep up? And so hopefully those policymakers can find a solution to that, because our bed space is limited. Even though we have tremendous collaborative partners that are getting people housed every day, it's hard when the influx is greater.
Yeah, and I think that's the key right there, because I've been listening and reading about the proposals from both mayoral candidates, Bass and Caruso, and there's one issue that still they're not grasping is the big picture. Yeah. It's a dynamic problem, and they're applying very static solutions to dynamic problems. So if you're not dealing with the influx, right, well then you're wasting your time, because the problem gets bigger as you're trying to, chase your tail around circles.
Yeah, you're right, and there's definitely a lot of innovative solutions that are out there that can be used. But if we never turn that off and people continually pour here, I don't know how that ever stops.
Yeah, amen to that. And we'll go to the questions now, and hopefully we get some questions on the homeless front. No, we got nothing on the homeless front? All right. We have a couple of very, very colorful characters have been cruising by. We've seen some success stories here.
Yeah.
Just from last year to this.
We saw the second man that we met when we came here, who now has gained about 25 pounds, looks like a thriving adventurer. And he was one of the guys that on day one said this will never happen. And here he is today coming up to say thank you to you and the team about how his life has changed. So that was rewarding. And that's what it's about, is able to take somebody and be that collaborative bridge to transition them off the streets. So it was cool that he saw us today and came up.
And he was tore from the floor up last year.
He was pretty unhealthy, he was suffering, and to see him thriving today, like he said, I don't have a care in the world. And that was nice to see.
Yeah, that is healthy. So we want to see that transformation wherever it's possible. And you know what, just look up and down their boardwalk now where it's free. And you have some street performers, crowd is down obviously because it's post-Labor Day. But now people are coming and going on bike, on foot, and skateboard, all different types of two-wheel devices.
Right.
And that's what we want. That's what's bringing life back to this area.
It's amazing. And you know, Venice, you know, I didn't grow up here, so I don't know all the history, but I learned a lot while we were here. Venice is that eclectic, you know, artist place, and that's what you're seeing now. It's back to that. And there are a few encampments here and there, and I think the collaboration with Santa Monica Police Department and the LA Police Department, and we'll offer, based on your directive, to help and bring our mental evaluation teams to assist them if needed. The amount of people that are here today are definitely manageable to be able to help them transition to make it a pure, clean area.
Yes, and one of the few remaining challenges here is a maintenance effort. If they close something off like that rest area right there, if you close it off, clean it up, and put it back open again, put it to use, but don't allow it to get repopulated with people that are trying to make encampment out of it.
Well, definitely, to that point, if something's maintained, you usually do not ever have to enforce. So those that are on the side of, you know, never enforcement, there's a way to do that, and it's maintaining it. By having the proper resources maintained, you'd never have an enforcement issue. So you're right, it goes back to resources.
Definitely. So with that, we have a couple of shout outs, let's see. Okay, here we go. This is an Instagram. Hollywood looks like, I can't say that on live, but it has to do with fertilizer. All right. Sheriff, when will you be coming to Hollywood? Well, good question. When we have the resources and we need some buy-in from the city council person representing Hollywood. I know there's an issue there. That election is contested right now. There's a runoff. Let's see what comes out of that. But we will be working with the city of LA and hopefully with the next mayor to realize when we all start working together and we're rowing in the same direction, hey, we can actually get some.
No, and on that note, when you directed us to go down to Hollywood and to assess it, we found that there was tremendous collaborative entities and civilian outreach entities that are dedicated to that area. And so we think in the future there's definitely some room to collaborate there. But there's some amazing entities doing work down there that just need a little help providing that safety and security, but it can be done.
Here's a good question. Janet McLaughlin, Facebook. Do you see the homeless problem getting better or worse in LA County? There's only one man who can answer that question right here.
You know, I think we've seen it actually increase and gotten worse. We see more, and you know, the pandemic did have a lot to do with it, but the solutions are out there, and so that's where it comes to resources. It has gotten worse. We haven't seen the final numbers for the homeless count, but I do believe we're going to see an increase.
And I can tell you, we've seen some places where we've seen success. Here is one, Olvera Street,
Lario Park,
Veterans Hospital,
The
San
VA
Vicente,
Canyon.
Topanga Canyon. There's some places where we've had successes, but they're local successes. We need to have a regional success.
You know, and that's the thing too, and a lot of people don't know that there is a difference between the county policies and the city policies. You know, the county, we have the Homeless Encampment Resolution Protocol. That protocol is not formal policy for LA City. So there are some different policy things, which does cause the view to be a little different.
Very true, and I'll tell you this, as sheriff, I'm committed to see the entire county solve this problem, and that means working with everyone. But everyone has to be willing to acknowledge what has not worked, and let's fix it. It's as simple as that. But if we keep repeating the same thing because we've put these barriers, well, we're not going to do this or do that because we're the big city or the county or we don't talk to those other people or they got it wrong. No, it is everybody come to the table, bring your resources, we'll craft a solution that everyone can work with and move forward. But there has to be finality in our decision making. There has to be finality when we do outreach. At some magical point, you have shelter space, you have care if you're mentally ill, substance abuse, shelter space, but the option to remain in public spaces, despoiling them and destroying them are not an option. They're not a viable option. That needs to be telegraphed to every single person who has designs to come to LA County. This is not for you. Stay where you're at, seek the help where you're at in your state of origin. Do not come to LA County.
No, and to that point, you know, no one we've ever talked to, and, you know, the tens of thousands of people have ever said, I got better by being homeless out in the street. They got worse. Day by day, they've gotten worse. And I think the numbers were 5 people a day died in the streets. And so, how can that be? And so those are things we need to address now because we can't let that continue.
That's very true, because some of the activists, the ones with the bullhorns and disrupting public meetings and screaming the loudest, are the ones that refuse to admit that 5 people a day are dying. That is a humanitarian crisis because they're preventable deaths, either from drug overdose or medical conditions that were left untreated that are very treatable. So let's start focusing on the big prize, which is saving lives and returning this place where the residents can enjoy it.
No, without a doubt. And I think we've seen enough successes. You know, there's always trial and error and best practices. We've seen enough things that have worked to be able to employ that broadly and then change this, because it's sad finding those people who have passed on the streets. And luckily, you know, due to all the new training and the new medications with Narcan, I mean, the host team alone, I think in the last 2 weeks has saved 2 people who they found and used Narcan and brought people back from, you know, an opioid overdose. So, you know, we don't want to see this. You know, and the people that we saw at the VA, you know, there was 2 murders there. And so these encampments, the culture doesn't become positive. It gets worse day by day. So the more that we can do to help people get the right help, because that's important, to get the right help. If they have a mental health issue, they need to be with a mental health clinician. If they have a substance abuse person, matter of fact, Jason, our famous barber, Jason Snyderman, is right down the way giving haircuts. And what he does to give back is he helps people with substance abuse problems. He gets them in inpatient treatment. And so those partnerships are amazing. So I think there's solutions out there.
All right, and we'll keep pushing those up. We got some more stuff here. Troy Silva, Facebook. What can concerned citizens do to help with the homeless? Well, what concerned citizens can do, there's a variety of things. One is next September 13th, which is next Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors is going to vote on a protocol for RV enforcement, because the RV situation has gotten out of control in a lot of areas throughout the county and the city of LA. And we have a protocol that's been put together by some of your deputies.
The protocol was an internal task force that you had directed us to create, working in collaboration with the CEO Homeless Initiatives Office, St. Joseph Center, LASA, the homeless deputy for Supervisor Mitchell, Lily Sofiani. They all came together, and this is a proposal that's going up. So it has broad support. We hope that the board does pass it, because it is in our opinion, of all the research, it is the answer. It's the homeless RV encampment protocol. It handles it similar to the protocol we use today. It's legal, it's just, it's based in compassion, and it'll really address the outcry, because we're getting thousands and thousands of complaints, and so has the supervisor's office, about these RVs, but LA County did not have a protocol. So this collaborative measure, if it passes, it's a game changer. So definitely to support that measure.
Which means come Tuesday, actually as soon as I think, I want to say Friday, go to the Board of Supervisors website and you'll see the item number on the Board of Supervisors agenda for next Tuesday. You can submit written comment on the item number, and on next Tuesday you can also call in and voice your support of the measure. And I think you call in around 9 or 9:30, and they'll put you in a QE, and then you can speak for 2 or 3 minutes on this very topic. So it's important to let the supervisor know this is very important to you and your community. And that goes not just for the RV enforcement that's on the agenda, but also you can also speak about lifting the hiring freeze on the department, restoring our full budget to 10% of the county's overall budget, like it used to be. Actually, it used to be more. It used to be 12% of the county's budget. We've shrunk to 9%. We'll keep it at 10%, and we'll call it even right there. So we need to get back to funding the department, not defunding it. And with that, Oh, here's another one. Ms. Christine on Instagram. Beaches closed due to bacteria on beaches. Well, there is a correlation between beach closures, bacteria levels, and the homeless population. A direct correlation, and that's something that people like to talk about.
Well, and I think you look outside here in some of the streets where you have the RVs, and some of the RVs that are dilapidated and broken down, they're not adhering to some of the sanitation rules, so they're pouring sanitation directly into the the drain,
Raw
which
sewage.
then goes raw sewage, then goes to the water. So anytime that these issues can be addressed comprehensively, it not only addresses the homeless issue, but how about the cleanliness of the area too? I mean, we're just in a pandemic, and I don't know, with all the sewage and things on the streets and the sidewalks, people walking through them. So it's important that the RV protocols address those things, because that's another health issue.
Okay, let's see. Okay, Francis De Carlo on Facebook. Can't you guys wear shorts? Cute. I don't want to blind anybody. All right. When is LA going to be cleaned up? Estrella DY. Well, we're working on that, and all the plans are starting to line up. Let's see what happens with the November elections come December. Hopefully, we'll have people in all elected offices that are going to take the homeless crisis as it is a crisis that it is. And this is the challenge of the 21st century. We will work together, we can definitely knock this thing out. Okay, here's another one. How many academies are set for the rest of the year? Good question. Let's see here. Rest of the year, we have, unfortunately, we have one. Yeah, one academy. Class 464 on September 22nd. That's this month. We're trying to get another class in between. And this is part of how the hiring freeze is really hurting us. It's not just the fact that they just lift the hiring freeze. The fact is, when they imposed the hiring freeze, we had a well-oiled machine. In 2019, we hired 1,100 deputy sheriff trainees. We set a record. And we had a huge number of candidates in the hopper being processed. When they imposed the hiring freeze, we lost all of that candidate pool. They all went away, obviously, to move on with their lives. So now we're trying to restart the process, and it's costing us a lot of money. So shutting down our hiring was probably one of the dumbest ideas ever by the county, because they're hurting their own constituents, they're hurting the department, and what did they gain out of it? Absolutely nothing, because there was no financial crisis as a result of the pandemic.
And what are the numbers? I know you talked about nationwide, about police departments, what New York has versus us.
Oh yeah, and this is something people need to be aware of. NYPD has 4 cops for every 1,000 residents. The national average is 2.5. LAPD has 2.2. We are struggling to keep 0.9, which is the lowest level of probably the entire nation. And they're arguing to make that number even lower. As the president himself, it says we must fund law enforcement. He wants to add 100,000 more on the street, cops, just like Bill Clinton back in the 90s. And he's saying that again and again. The National Democratic Party says we are for funding, we do not believe in defunding. But the LA County Board of Supervisors, check this out, they are on record as the only government agency in the entire nation who is dead set on continuing to defund law enforcement, specifically the LA County Sheriff's Department. That makes them a statistical outlier in comparison to the rest of the country. Many cities and counties experimented with the defunding back in 2020. It was a political thing to do to show, whatever they were trying to virtue signal. Backfired enormously. People left the profession in droves. They're trying to convince them to come back. And what is our board doing? The exact opposite. Trying to continue the hiring freeze and harming our ability to serve the community. We got one more. How can we stop street takeovers? Well, we got a couple of things going. We have a task force. We're deploying as many deputies that we have available out there on the streets on the weekends and all the areas that are hit hard by the street takeovers. We're working with the CHP, LAPD, doing the exact same thing. We're having some success now. We're getting them in the pocketbooks where it hurts the most. And the last frontier that we're examining now is engineering. The city of Compton experimented with bot dot placement, and we're going to continue playing around until we get the right formula where hopefully we can start destroying some of these cars doing the donuts.
That's dangerous.
Very.
And we saw a story the other night of a lady who was caught in the middle of one trying to get home, and how scary that was for her.
She was stuck for over an hour just trying to get home to where she was at. And that was, I believe, in Westchester, not too far from here. All right. Okay. Shout outs to the Philippines, to North County of LA, City of LA, San Bernardino. They're dialing in. And now we're going to switch to al español. ¿Qué podemos decir? Tenemos noticias positivas. Primero, estamos aquí en la playa de Venice, disfrutando del ambiente, el sol, la playa y la atmósfera. Están llenos de turistas, gente haciendo actividades atléticas, todo muy positivo, un contraste enorme con el año pasado, cuando eso estaba lleno de indigencia, de personas, de pandilleros, de crimen, drogas, gente con enfermedades mentales gritando y asustando a todas las personas que se atrevían a llegar aquí. En un año todo eso se ha convertido en algo lo que era originalmente, un sitio para llevar a la familia, para disfrutar de la playa, de todos los comerciantes, los restaurantes, los artistas que están aquí en la playa, ofreciendo sus talentos artísticos, como digamos, y esto es muy bonito. Queremos que esto siga en pie, pero tenemos que trabajar en colaboración con la ciudad de Los Ángeles, con la ciudad de Santa Mónica que queda al norte, y hay un poco de indigencia que se ve de aquí a allá, y estamos trabajando en colaboración con mi amigo el teniente Jeff Diedrich, que él está dedicado a la indigencia, a resolver esa crisis, y con eso las noticias buenas que una disminución de homicidios un 34% en comparación con el año pasado, pero de preocupación un aumento de robos de 29% y un aumento de robos de casa de un 40%. Así que hay una combinación de noticias buenas y noticias malas. Pero con eso, ¿alguna pregunta en español que tenemos? Hoy es este mes, el mes de septiembre, es un mes especial de prevención de suicidio. Y vamos a cambiar al inglés. Folks, just a reminder, September is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. So if you know someone who is suffering, say something. Reach out. Don't be afraid. I'd rather have rejection than regret any day of the week. So let's keep that in mind. And with that, folks, stay safe out there. And remember, sunblock if you're out here on the beach. Let's get the memo of this gentleman here running by. And if you're going to be out there hiking in the wilderness, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you have a game plan, make sure people know where you're going and when you're expected to return, and know what to do in case you get into trouble, because we're losing a lot of people in the mountains here on hikes, mostly because of heat stroke, heat exhaustion. So know your limitations, folks. With that, we're out of here. Peace out.
So what's